Back to Bernier in the middle. Bernier sees Felipe open. Felipe runs. Felipe says Di Vaio. Di Vaio's open. Di Vaio shoots. All right, one. It's off the Woodworkx. Good day, good night, and welcome to Off the Woodworkx, to this special edition of Off the Woodworkx, where today we're going to talk about one thing only, and that's the man, the legend, Marco Di Vaio himself. Today, Saturday, he's retiring, playing his last game ever at Stade Saputo versus the DC United. And I've been working on this show for the last couple weeks. 5 guests today on the show to talk about the legacy of Marco, talk about the impact, no pun intended, of Marco had on the team, on the league, on the country, on the planet. Well, maybe not the planet, but to see the impact that he had on everything, to talk about the way he changed things around media-wise, changed things around how people look at him, and just changed the way I look at soccer, because yes, there's a couple of stories that I have to tell as well about just me watching Marco and how he literally gave me a different perspective on the game, and we'll talk about that. But first of all, the guest on the show today, Raphael Larocque-Cyr from Sans Frontiere, Nick Sabetti from Sportsnet and Goal Canada. We have Jonathan Tannenwald, United States correspondent. Consider him almost a friend over the years. We have many different conversations on many different podcasts, and we're going to talk about Marco. We have Noel Butler from TSN and TSN 690, who talked about Marco Di Vaio and his legacy and how he sees Marco. And we have as well Mccarthy from Fox Soccer Inside MLS to have an outside perspective of how the rest of the league saw Marco Di Vaio and the way he changed things, or maybe he didn't. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about as well, I'll give you my opinion on what is the legacy of Marco Di Vaio and what is the footprint that he left on the league and on the team and on the young kids who are going to play soccer for the next years to come. He has a say, he had a say on how the next generation of soccer players will look at the way they can play. And wow, it's just, I think it was fitting. First of all, the reason for this show, I thought it was really fitting because Marco Di Vaio had such an impact, not necessarily on me personally, but on the whole team, on the whole league. And the effort he put in was deserving of a special show, at the least. It's the least we could do for him. So we'll talk about that. Many different interviews throughout the show. We will have the press conferences as well. We will have some very old tidbit of sound from old school, little obscure UEFA Champions Cup game that Marco played, that he scored in. We a lot of surprises on this show, and let's just get started with this.
But always danger with this guy in the game. Di Vaio as Bernier finds him. Jakovic marking Di Vaio. It's in the net. Marco Di Vaio wants that to be the dagger.
Excellent display from Marco Di Vaio. Almost too predictable though, Dave, the way he comes back in on his right foot. He beats Jakovic. Excellent finish to the far post. He beats the keeper as well, Bill Hamid. It's a good ball by Bernier. You see DC's line a bit high there. He just cuts in, shapes it up. Upper 90, far post, good finish.
What a goal that he scored against DC United. That was during the 2013 season. I thought it was fitting before they play against the DC United for his last game. And you know what? I hope that he puts another one like this past Bill Hamid. Top corner, far post. Doesn't get better than this. Well, a hat-trick would, but let's not dream in color. Let's just hope for a great spectacle and just a great send-off to a man that deserves it. To a man that started playing a long time ago, you're going to say, well, you're right. Turned pro in 1993 with Lazio, the team of his city, where he grew up because he's a boy from Rome. He's a Roma boy. From Rome, Italy, of course, you're going to say. He started in Parma. He started in Lazio, what I was saying. And then he had 2 seasons as Lazio before he did not find his drive as a player until the 1997. But before that, he has loan spell at Verona Serie B, Bari in Serie B, and then eventually in 1997 when he transitioned to the then Serie B but was pushing on promotion, Salernitana. He played 67 games for that team, 33 goals during those 2 seasons, but within the first season of 24 goals, he was second goal scorer of his league, almost top in the league, almost close to it. And he brought the team to promotion. That's when he started to become a prolific starter. That's when he started to become a striker of the Marco Di Vaio that we know. That season brought interest from bigger club like it usually does in 1999. Parma, who was going into they were actually in Serie A. They were trying to fight. He had a great season, a couple of great seasons. He played 83 games for Parma with 41 goals during those 83 games. Not too shabby. And that caught the attention of an even bigger team, Juventus. 2002, he made his debut for Juventus. But in 2002, in a team like Juventus, for the type of striker that Marco Di Vaio was, it was really hard for him to actually pierce the starting 11 constantly and have consistent playing time. And in hindsight, we can see now that was his downfall during that time of his career, even until he joined Bologna in 2008. He had a whole decade of trying to find himself and struggling because he was not having the consistent playing time that we saw he needed with Bologna and Montreal Impact to become a very prolific striker, and was able to right the ship late in his career over his overall stat. We'll talk about that after, how he actually kept a pretty decent goals per game average over his whole career when you look at the stat at the end, if you look at it before today's game, obviously. So now he's with Juventus 2002-2004. He played in the Champions League and he had great moment for Juventus in the Champions League, such as this one.
Si avvicina Ragalbuto, chiede calma a Pirlo. Si rialza Nedved, 3 interventi duri su di lui. La finta di Di Vaio, 1-2 con 3 secondi, Di Vaio, Marco! Di Vaio! Un gol pazzesco di Vaio, pazzesco! Sono matto per averci provato, e c'ha ragione. Che gol straordinario! L'aggettivo l'hai detto giustamente tu, pazzesco. Hanno fatto un'azione bellissima, finta di andare incontro, ha ricevuto la sponda di Trezeguet e poi al volo ha lasciato partire un tiro incredibile e neanche Dida è riuscito a prendere questa palla. Gol bellissimo, organizzata, anche l'azione molto bella, ha lasciato partire la gamba molto bene e ha trovato l'incrocio dei pali. Ma che bel gol!
What a goal that was. If you have a chance, go on YouTube. Just write Marco Di Vaio, Juventus in Champions League. Will be the first video that pops up. And you need to watch that goal. A shot from about 30 yards out. Bellissimo. Grande Marco. And in Juventus until 2004, like we were talking about, was not the type of season that him or Juventus were expecting, and they preferred other striker who was actually hard for him to break the starting 11. But you know what? During that stay, still won a Scudetto. Scudetto, if you don't know, that's a champion. That's the season championship of Serie A. And he was in the 2003 UEFA Champions League final, which is always a good cap to have in your resume and your legacy, and the best way to justify that, we're talking about it right now. Then he went to Valencia for another 2-season spell with the same club again. The same type of thing happened to Juventus, but happened to Valencia, and it wasn't the same type of he did not have the same type of relationship with the coach. You remember the new coach, Fabio Capello. That was with Juventus, but they restructured in Juventus. Same thing happened for him in Valencia. And in Valencia, he actually played less than he played in Juventus. Played 35 games in the 2 seasons combined, had a couple of injuries, was never really able to find his rhythm. And that's what happened for that decade, you can say, almost from 2002, from 99 to 2008, when he went to Bologna, the fall of 2000. That's when he actually had a very similar type of season with different club. Same thing happened in Monaco. Did not have the best experience in France. Decided to go back to Italy. Actually decided to play to City B with Genoa on January 2007 when he went to Genoa for 1 season. Then he went for Bologna on a transfer and started to dominate in Bologna. Eventually, he earned a free transfer from Genoa to Bologna and had probably the most prolific time of his career, including with the Montreal Impact time, because the two type of, it's really, really similar. In Bologna from 2000-2012, 4 season, 143 games played with 65 goals scored. Remember that number. 2012-2014 with the Montreal Impact. Until today, 74 games played total, 33 goals scored. That's in the league. By the way, not total, but just in Major League Soccer. That's not too shabby, buddies. That's not too shabby, people. And if you're looking at all the games and all the seasons combined, there's a 572 season game Marco Di Vaio played in his career with 228 goals for roughly 0.4 goals a game. That's a game every 2.5 games. That's a goal every 2.5 games. And over the season, it always comes up to more than 10 goals a season, around 12 or 13 goals a season if you want to be precise. And as a striker, that's pretty consistent and efficient. Alright, the numbers are biased with his last 6 seasons he had in his career. We're putting numbers that are almost equivalent to a goal every 2 games. And that, as a striker, that's what we're asking you to do. That's what you need to do as a striker. If you do 1 goal every 2 games, you have a very good shot of winning silverware. And let's not discount the silverware that he did win with the Montreal Impact. Because in every interview I've heard Marco Di Vaio talk about, there's like his legacy, his favorite moments, and his favorite thing that he did with the Montreal Impact jersey on his shoulders and on his chest, and especially more on his heart, was winning the 2 Canadian Championship that he won, the 2 Voyageurs Cup that the Impact won in the last 2 years, were probably his most significant accomplishment. That, and he allowed a ton of goals he scored in 2013, which that season, again, I'll reiterate it here again, that season as a DP, I will take that season alone, and I would put it against any other season in the history of DPs in Major League Soccer, and has a very good shot at beating it. And that will not change very soon, because it's a very hard thing to do that Marco did in 2013, and he impressed all of us. All of us, he did impress. So that's a quick overview, a quick resume of the different teams and the different a type of season that Marco Di Vaio had in his entire career, because it was not all roses and kisses and hugs. He had some hard time, had some hardships, was not always playing in teams that were good, and that built character, and you could tell that man is seasoned, the way he handled himself in hard times and hard circumstances. Remember the Calcio Scomese a year and a half ago, the whole Italian scandal, you could say, but about the fixed games and all that. It is a scandal. The Calcio Scomese, it was a scandal. It still is probably to this day. Still, repercussion to that will be heard in the future in a long term. Thank God that he was absoluted everything and was not found guilty of nothing, because that would have been really a bummer, to be fair. But so he was never had an easy time, and that built character throughout his whole career. And we saw that force inside him. When the things were down and he scored, you can tell he was truly passionate, truly happy about it. And that's one of the things I remember Marco Di Vaio. Another thing I remember about Marco Di Vaio, well, it went a little like this.
will hold it. Wide on the right side, ball played in. That's a quick shot, and Montreal's on the board. Guess who? Marco Di Vaio. In just the second minute.
Well, and we talked about it, JP, in the keys of the game. You have to know where Marco Di Vaio is at all times. He's floating on top of the box. Nobody tracks him. Free in the box. Good ball in by Andrew Wenger. Give him credit. And a good finish by Marco Di Vaio. But you come to expect that from Marco Di Vaio. In the box, with time and space, he does not make mistakes. He's very good, very productive. He's been for many years now and continues to do so in Major League Soccer.
Bernier. Switching to the right. Justin Mapp. Play on either side. So many years with the Fire. Sending it inside. There's Di Vaio again. He pulled McMath out and scores. Made it look easy. 2-1 Montreal. And Ali, the great goal scorers do make it look easy, don't they?
Well, and he certainly did that, but with plenty of space. The first issue is not forcing Justin Mapp to his right, and then a run off the shoulder of Shannon Williams does not pick him up, unaware that Di Vaio is behind him, and then Di Vaio simply brings it down, and calm, cool, knowing exactly what he's going to do, flicks it right over Zach McMath. Different level kind of finish for Marco Di Vaio. Good touch, calm, here you go, thanks for coming.
Yeah. He plays on the shoulder of that last defender. He leads the league by a wide margin in offside calls, and he could be offside 6-7 times in a game, but that one time he's going to be onside, and he's also going to score.
He's a guy that has certainly proven and continues to produce, and as you said, at 37 years old.
That's Romero. Played it across. There's another one. He has 3. A Marco Di Vaio first half hat trick.
And tremendous service by Andres Romero. And yet it's Marco Di Vaio's ability to float in behind defenders, play off of the shoulder of defenders. Good play by Andres Romero, gets his head up, Shannon Williams slips, and now Marco Di Vaio floating in behind the defenders. Clinical, easy finish in the end for Marco Di Vaio.
What's funny about that, first of all, it was his first hat trick. That was in 2013 again versus the Philadelphia Union. You could say the team that he loves scoring against probably the most. There's been a couple multiple goal games, and it seems like it's always been against the Philly Union. Sorry, Jonathan. We'll talk to him a little later today. But yeah, that day at Stade Saputo versus the Philly Union, when I had a feeling after he scored the first game, I was in the cup for that game next to my friend Mini Sabrango. And after the first goal, after the couple minutes in, I turned around and I look at him and I'm like, Mini, I have a feeling he's going to score 3 today. And guess what? He did. And did he? Wow, so did he. What a beautiful goals and clinical finishes like we heard in that description. It was such a great day, such a great atmosphere. Finally seeing a great performance for a striker in the Montreal Impact. We haven't seen that in a long time before him. And it was his coming out party. That 3-goal game was one of his most interesting, was most, how can you say it, his biggest highlight, his highlight that shines the brightest, is probably that one. A couple 2-goals game, a couple cracker goals he did from far away. He had a lot of good performances, but that one on that day, Stade Saputo, I called it, and I loved it. Now we will be talking to Raphael Larocque-Cyr, our first guest today on this Di Vaio retirement special. So here's Raphael Larocque-Cyr from Soccer Sans Frontiere right after this.
We've always said that Montreal's soccer fans deserve a designated player, and we'd like to thank them for their trust and their patience. Marco, grazie per aver deciso di accettare il nostro invito qui a Montreal.
And welcome back to the Retirement Di Vaio special. And to talk about Di Vaio, Raphael Larocque-Cyr, who's on Soccer Sans Frontiere and on many other places, Mount Royal Soccer. Raphael, how are you doing tonight?
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, yeah.
Cool.
A bit better than the Impact.
Well, we have to look forward, right? There's a quarterfinal coming, and that's how I see it.
Yeah, of course.
You always have to look at the bright side of life, right? Last week, Marco Di Vaio announced his retirement from the world of football. And it was actually a very interesting press conference. He was very honest, I thought. And for him, the achievement that he talked about had more importance probably than we thought it did. Like, he talked about the cup that he won. That was a good, important moments for him. What do you think, to start it, what is his best achievement overall as an Impact player?
I have to say the goals he scored last season to be top scorer in the league, I think that's something that means a lot. 20 goals in a season is something that is happening only to one or two players every season in MLS. Mm-hmm. So 20 goals in one season, that kind of showed the whole league in North America in general that yes, the Impact went to pick the right guy to start their time in MLS. That's a guy that helped them doing the transition and going, let's say, one step higher and be an established, well, not an established club yet, but become a competitive club in MLS. So that was the guy they relied on, and he showed up with his 20 goals in the season.
All right. There's a point of view I said on the last two Solitudes podcasts about Marco Di Vaio and how his season that he had, the 2013 season, mm-hmm. I can put that season against any other DP in the history of Major League Soccer, and it's going to stand up there as being one of the best. Would you agree with that statement?
I agree. I agree with the statement in itself. The problem is maybe that we didn't have the DP. We didn't add the DP for as long as other teams had their DPs. Like, mm-hmm. if we're talking about Robbie Keane, we're talking about David Beckham, we're talking about Thierry Henry. These guys have been there for a few seasons longer than Di Vaio, so they've had, I would say, maybe a bigger impact in the sense that they competed 4, 5, 6 seasons, and they. You know, it's longevity, if I can say. Di Vaio was here half a season to begin in 2012, a full season in 2013, and 2014 was kind of a so-so season for the whole team. So we maybe we didn't see enough of Di Vaio, but I mean, the guy is 38, so we cannot ask him to stay much longer, right? Yeah, but yeah, no, the statement in itself, the season 2013, 20 goals, best scorer of the league, and bringing the Impact in the playoffs for their second seasons in MLS, that's a great achievement. It's one of the best DP's achievement in the league, that's for sure.
All right, let's go back to March 2012. Actually, it's later than that. He arrived in June 2012. Mm-hmm. We all knew it was going to come since March 2012. But anyways, he came in June. Let's go back to the mindset that we had. Yeah. Did you expect this, or did you expect more? Did you expect less? How did your expectation you had in 2012, are they achieved in 2014?
Yeah, well, I think I have to be honest, and I maybe over-criticized Di Vaio when he arrived. I think many of us did. We didn't like the way he gesticulate everywhere, and like he was always offside. There was bad timing between him and the rest of the team. Mm-hmm. So it was a lot of offside. It was a lot of incomprehensions between the player. They didn't communicate well, and he seemed to never get the ball where he wanted it. And so that and it's really after the first season in the at the training camp in between the seasons in 2013, just before the season, we saw that he was working really hard, and we kind of knew that something was coming that season. We didn't knew it was gonna be 20 goals. But he was working really hard at training, like double work than anyone at the training. He arrived in shape. He was ready for the season, and he performed in the second season. So, I mean, the first season, I have to agree. Like I was maybe too critical. We should have, it always takes some time. The guy had to adapt.
But to be fair, we did not knew the MLS as well, so we were discovering this league.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a big difference too, watching the NASL play for many years and then moving up to MLS. The whole style of play, looking at hindsight to the 2012 season, we actually did not have that bad of a season at all. We're actually looking at the game on the pitch when you're rewatching. Go on MLS Live and look at it. It was actually better than this year.
No, yeah, the first season was a good first season. We set the bar too high maybe at the beginning when Nick Santis went on l'antichambre and he said, where our goal is to go in the playoff for our first season. No, your goal is to build a team and build something for MLS, but you cannot say things like that at the beginning, I find. We set the bar maybe too high, but it was a good first season. And I saw, anyway, that's another topic, but I saw complaints as well on the Jesse March pick at the draft, and the expansion draft, and no, I think he did the right choices. There were not easy choices to make at that draft. There was a lot of players that we didn't know. There was players that had big contracts that we didn't want to take. So anyway, so that first season was not as bad as maybe we see it now. I think it was a good first season, and the second season showed it. We arrived, we were prepared, and we went in playoff, which is a really good thing for a second season.
You spoke about how Marco Di Vaio really worked hard at the training camp of 2013. Do you think that describes his whole career, or maybe the end of his career a little bit more? His work ethic, he was probably irreproachable, always working hard on the pitch, even though he had a lot of things going on outside the pitch, either this year, last year, this year with his family not there, last year with all the Calcius Comese debacle, and the year prior was the same thing. So would you consider his legacy a work ethic?
Yeah, it's part of it for sure. The guy is working hard. He shows up at every training and every game. Not only the games, the training is important. The guy works hard at training, and that's important. Someone that's lazy at training, it will show in the game. But this guy was just working hard all the time. There was stuff going around in his life, and we probably don't know all the details of everything that was going on.
Exactly.
But he knew, and for sure, it's not easy to deal with your life, your professional and your personal life, in any case, not only sports. But he was able to do it, and he performed. So maybe this year was a bit harder, but it was harder for the whole team. So I think his work ethics is definitely what kept him playing for that long. If he's 38 today, he's still scoring goals in MLS, and that's why.
When you're looking at the way he handles himself on the pitch, the way he creates either his movement or the movement of his teammates, or it's a different type of flair. It's an Italian flair that we didn't see in MLS before. Do you think that him coming over when he did actually opened the mind of the other teams and even the Impact to a different type of play than they thought they could have?
Yeah, well, the thing is, it wasn't a typical. I don't think there's been many Italian players in that before. Right?
Exactly. That's the base of my question, because he's like the first known Italian to make the transition.
Yeah. So, but the type of play that he brought with him, as well as a forward, he wasn't the forward that's gonna run every ball and put pressure and then come back But he was. I mean, if you're a defender, you're scared to have him just in front of you waiting for the ball there. You cannot take this off your mind. But the way he's been playing, the defenses in MLS, they've had to adapt for sure. It's a big thing. And at first, like last season when he scored that many goals, I think they weren't ready. They saw the Di Vaio of 2012 that wasn't ready, that the whole team was so 2013 worked really well for him. This year, maybe they adapted. Maybe the impact wasn't as good as the other years as well. So there's a lot of reasons, I guess. But no, for sure, his style of play was something kind of new for MLS teams, yeah.
Okay, so now he's retired. When you hear the name Di Vaio, what will be the lasting memory for you?
Wow. Oh, for sure. I mean, when I hear the Di Vaio name, it's the little tricks he does in front of the defenders when he enters the zone. You know, like he's gonna feint, go one way, go the other way. Then he has
He's gonna have a cutback.
He has a wide open net after that, and his shots are really accurate as well. So, but the little cuts in front of the defenders, I think that's what I like about him. This guy it worked well for him, and that's how he scored so many goals.
At least we're going to see a lot of those by Piatti in the next few years.
Yes, we have. I was going to say Di Vaio is going to be the name to remember for the MLS team for a while, but we already have Piatti that's showing up. That's showing a lot of good signs, and I think he's going to show more in 2015.
It's another level. Di Vaio's a level, but Piatti is like a little level. I don't want to say better, but it's a different type of level, maybe higher.
I still remember Di Vaio as our first DP and as our best scorer. I don't think Piatti is going to score 20 goals next year, and
whoever might set up 20 something though.
Yeah, but whoever we're going to go take for next forward replacing Di Vaio, I don't know if they're going to score 20 goals. 20 goals is really not easy to score in MLS. And
not just in MLS, in any league in the world.
Yeah.
When's the last time you saw a Premier League player score 20 goals? It's very rare.
I mean, there's always one or two, but there's not like a guy in every team scoring 20 goals. So
even in La Liga, you have Messi, Ronaldo, and another guy usually, and
exactly.
That's it.
Yeah. So he left something really important within the team and the history of the team. Like, I mean, he won the Canadian Championship twice, so that's a pretty big thing as well. He has 2 trophies with the Impact.
Yep, and a qualification for the quarterfinals, because he was one of the reasons the Impact actually qualified for the quarterfinals.
Yes, and I wonder if we could find a way to keep him like just for those quarterfinals and semifinals if we go further, you know, that would be great. But I don't think it's something that's possible with all the contracts and all that. But
and not just that, just he said like last week that it would be stupid to do that, and I have to agree with him because not just the fact that he's not going to train as much in the next 6 months.
No, I know.
But at that age, even though he's still young for real life, as a soccer player, 38, every 6 months, we saw it with Nesta, you age years.
Yeah.
So in the next 6 months, we might actually do better with somebody else, right?
He's actually, I don't know, he turned 38 just this summer, so he's still, yeah. But it's a lot of work, for sure. I mean, physically, it's going to be harder. It would be too hard probably to come back and just play like few games. So like you say, I think it's smart. But I mean, he brought us there with Piatti, so I mean, I hope he's going to be there at least in the stands to watch the game.
Absolutely. We might practice in Bologna a couple months before that, that's for sure.
Well, now that the team is belonging to the same owner.
Exactly. All right, last question before I let you go, Raphael. We have, after every DP, you can say one of the roles in Major League Soccer is to elevate the team and to leave it better off as when they came in.
Yeah.
Do you think the Impact are better off today than when he came in 2012?
Yes. You bring a star player like that, it's like putting the team, not putting the team on the map, because for that, like, I mean, like 2008, 2009, the CONCACAF semifinal, the CONCACAF Champions League and all that's what really put the Impact on the map. But to bring a star player like that, it's what, I mean, it puts, like, people talk about it in Montreal. You know what I mean? Like, people will come to the stadium, there's a star in the team to go watch. There's the front page of a newspaper because that guy is a star. That guy scored 3 goals yesterday. He did amazing, and that guy's a star. So that's what attracts the people to the team. It's a good publicity. No, this guy left his mark with goals, but also with sometimes of some kind of a star expo on this team.
Raphael Larocque-Cyr, thank you very much for joining us on the Off to Woodworkx special Di Vaio retirement.
It's always fun, Kevin.
And you can listen to Raphael on Sans Frontiere every Wednesday on the university channel Shock, I think, Shock FM?
Shock.ca, yeah.
Shock.ca, and you can read him on Mount Royal Soccer. Have a good night, Raphael.
Yeah, see you.
Huh. Thank you. Thank you. I understood yesterday when I spoke with Joy. We had a meeting with Joy, and when I came back to my house, and understood that it's a right moment, I can come back, and so with my decision. And so yesterday was a little bit sad for me because it's done. And so, but I lived a lot of time, a lot of moment here, really important for me, for the club, for the history, because we won 2 Canadian Cup, we arrived the series, we go through to the quarterfinal of the Champions League. We are in the 8th best team and then the Champions League CONCACAF, and so I'm really happy with what we've done right now.
If you remember earlier, I talked about how Marco Di Vaio changed the way I view the sport of soccer, the way I actually I coached last year, so the way I coached was directly affected by how he plays. Watching him just stay on the shoulder of the defense and the way he changes the angles of his runs from time to time to put confusion in the mind, to literally play mind games with the defenders. It was just magnificent to watch. And it gave me a totally different perspective on the game. I actually looked at it 360 degrees instead of just back and forth or front to side. He gave me a different type of movement that was allowed and can be successful on a football pitch. And that was all up to him. Seeing it on TV while you're watching the Champions League or something is one thing. Being at the stadium, same level as the players, watching him execute those curling top corner far post shot, seeing that cutback he does when he gets into the box to open his right foot up to the top far, it was magnificent and literally gave me a different perspective on the game. And that's all thanks to you, Marco. And I say that's one of the things I say thank you to. That the flair you brought to the team, the hard work you put in on every single practice session. I give or take a couple, but it was pretty close. You gave your heart to the supporters, never shying away from saying hello after the end of the game to the fans that are gathered on the railing in the section 131 and 132. I remember being at midfield up high, watching the game, watching the way Di Vaio was just getting ready to execute one of those runs. And you could tell it was, if you remember the commentary of one of those goals earlier, it said it was telegraphed. So what? He telegraphed what he was doing. Nobody could still stop him. And that's just telling the type of class and the level he was in, even though he came into the league not as young as we would have hoped or would have liked. That's one of the reasons I really wish that he came into the league 3, 4 years earlier. It would have been such a magnificent type of impact on it would have been twice what he did. Yeah, it's easy to say because it would have played twice the amount, but what I mean is his contribution would have put not only an impact that's really impactful right now, but it would have put in on a long period in time, would have legitimized it on a different level. Talk about Beckham and the Galaxy. We still see today the effect of David Beckham, and he's gone for a year. And I hope it's going to be the same with Di Vaio. Who knows in a year from now what will be left of the Di Vaio presence in Montreal for those 2 years. One other thing that I hope stays, it's when he spent time with the academy, with the young from the U18, U16, U23s, reserves to the practice squad, just having a chance to practice with Marco Di Vaio, game in, game out, day in, day out, rain or shine. That brings out the level of everyone, and it shows them how to become another Marco Di Vaio, a great player. Even the defenders, everybody was better because of Marco Di Vaio, and I hope that stays, and that confidence that he brought to them, well, it's going to stay forever. Now, we're joined by another guest right now, Nick Sabetti from Sportsnet and Gold Canada, talking about Marco Di Vaio, the man of the hour.
A good judgment call, but you see right there, that player, Di Vaio, he's a little older now, but he is a smart forward who creates plenty of opportunities behind a flat defensive line, so they've just got to stay tuned.
That one laid off left side. And the blast is in far side. And it's 1-0. And the shutout streak of the Red Bulls is over. And so is the streak of games without a goal for Marco Di Vaio.
And welcome back to this special Di Vaio retirement of Off the Woodworkx. Joining me right now, Nick Sabetti of Gold Canada covers the Impact. How you doing today, Nick?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, man.
My pleasure. All right, last week, Di Vaio announced that he's going to retire from the world of competitive football. What would be the lasting impression that you have of his time with the Montreal Impact?
Well, I would say just kind of like what I wrote in the column I wrote for Sportsnet. It's just someone that a player that I would say first and foremost was a real professional. I think one of the things that surprised me, with a player of his age, player that's played at the highest level, to come to MLS, I would have thought, beforehand that maybe he would kind of take it easy a little. But he hasn't done that at all. I think just seeing him in training throughout these last few years, just the how serious he's been about, really contributing to the Impact and really wanting the Impact to do well these last few years. That for me, I think, has really been something special. I think that's something special about him. Just his professionalism, the day-to-day, the way he conducts himself. And then as a player, I think he's not maybe a very flamboyant player. He's not someone that can take guys on. He's not. But in terms of his intelligence, obviously he doesn't have the sort of blistering speed that he used to 10 years ago in Serie A. But you see the intelligence of this player, the way he moves off the ball. It's just phenomenal. It's just, for me, second to none in MLS. So that's kind of been special. It's been special to have been able to watch him over these last 2.5 seasons. Just a great soccer player, really an exemplary soccer player.
If we go back to June 2012, when he first got to Montreal, everybody had you and L. That was a great night, right?
Yeah.
Everybody had expectations for him. Considering the 2.5 years has passed, do you think those expectations were met, were surpassed, or maybe below par?
That's a good question. I would say probably surpassed. I would say. I mean, it's difficult to say. I mean, Saputo says that everything Saputo certainly what he was saying the other day. He seems certainly very satisfied with Di Vaio's time. Obviously, in the beginning, it took some time for him to get going. But the season he had last year was phenomenal. I think, the main thing is that he just hasn't been here long enough. I think during his 2.5 years, he's done very well. I think you can't really ask for more from a guy from his age, from his standpoint. The guy gave everything, and last season was phenomenal. He had led the team to the playoffs for the first time. So I think he's surpassed sort of expectations, I think, from me. But the only regret is that he just didn't come earlier. I mean, honestly, if only this guy had come 2-3 seasons earlier. Well, obviously the Impact weren't in MLS yet, but had the Impact joined a few seasons earlier, and to get this guy really at an earlier age, I mean, for sure he'd be up there in terms of, in terms of like the best sort of most impactful MLS players ever, for sure, because, but I think he's done very well. Honestly, I think he's helped this team for the first few seasons to kind of give them to give them a sort of base, to give them a sort of start in MLS, I think he's done well. I think he can't really ask for more.
There's a role in the DP that's almost included with the trip to North America, is to grow the team itself. Do you think Marco Di Vaio left Montreal Impact in a better state than when he came in?
Yeah, I think, that, I mean, your earlier question, the question is before, I think they kind of go hand in hand. Yeah, I think it's not just, his impact, I would say, isn't just, just what he is able to do on the field in terms of as a player, but also growing the impact in terms of growing the name of the Impact, at least abroad, especially, I guess, in Italy, having been able to bring over a guy like Nesta. Maybe Nesta didn't have such a, wasn't maybe spectacular as a player with the Impact, but just helping bring over a guy like that and to really sort of grow the name abroad and to increase sort of the, to extend sort of the contacts that the team has abroad. And now we have, Saputo, looks like he'll be buying Bologna as well. So, Di Vaio, in a certain sense, has a hand in that because, he kind of made that market kind of, made Saputo aware of that market and so on. So, it's, I think the impact of Di Vaio's, rival is significant for sure. I think the impact right now of the club is certainly a much better state than when he first arrived. Obviously, not just for him, not just for his arrival, because the Impact are now kind of building the team themselves. But yeah, Di Vaio certainly had a part in sort of putting the team on the map in a certain sense.
On the field, Di Vaio brought a totally different type of movement for a striker that we haven't seen in Major League Soccer before. Would you consider that one of his legacy that he's going to leave to not just the Montreal Impact, but to the whole league?
Yeah, certainly for the people that have been able to see him play, that certainly that intelligence of play, that ability to kind of just to get away to unlock defenses just by his movement. I think that's a talent that you don't ordinarily see. It's a subtle sort of ability that that kind of differentiates him from, say, other forwards that we've been able to see in MLS. For the most part, the best MLS, strikers in MLS are generally just big and powerful strikers, whereas Di Vaio's kind of the opposite of that, but he's still been successful. So, yeah, no, it's certainly a different kind of player, and it shows too that MLS that you don't. In North America, North American soccer, we're so used to the physical aspects of the game that, for us in North America, there's this tendency to focus or emphasize the physical aspects of the game. Whereas Di Vaio shows that, there's another side. And I think that's kind of one of the things that I think he's brought.
Last question before I let you go. Do you see Di Vaio implicated in any way in the future, either at Bologna FC now is going to be part of the Impact's family, or with the Impact? Do you see the continuity of a partnership between Di Vaio and the Impact?
Yeah, well, with Saputo buying Bologna, certainly Di Vaio, that will sort of continue the ties between Di Vaio and the Impact, because Di Vaio will when he returns to Italy at the end of the season, will be working for Bologna. It's not clear what capacity, but probably as a kind of ambassador, or as a maybe a technical director. Who knows? But certainly this isn't the last of Di Vaio in Montreal. I think we'll see a lot more of him. We'll be hearing a lot more of him for sure, with the fact that Saputo's bought Bologna. So that's really interesting. That'll be something to keep an eye on. As these next months go by.
Nick Sabetti from Goal Canada and writer for Sportsnet as well. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Hey, no problem. Thank you. Take care.
the city already, and a lot of folks when the Impact joined the league were very excited to have it in the circuit, to be able to travel there, to go visit, to watch soccer there. And I think that Di Vaio showed, certainly what the resources of Joey Saputo are financially, and the kinds of players that he can bring up there and make them a contender.
Oh, yeah. All right, so let me just introduce you. And welcome back to this retirement special of Off to Woodworkx. Joining me now from Philly.com and many other outlets, Jonathan Tannenwald from Philadelphia. How you doing, Jonathan?
Hello again. I gather it's cold up there.
Yeah, it's actually getting there very quickly, Jonathan.
As it tends to do at this time of year.
Yeah, well, yeah, especially in Montreal. Marco Di Vaio announced his retirement and is going to play his last game ever with the Montreal Impact this Saturday. First question I would like to ask you, Jonathan, as an outside perspective, what is your opinion of Di Vaio after a couple of years in Major League Soccer?
Well, I think he certainly was exactly the kind of player that the Impact needed to sign to make a splash nationally and a not rival in Major League Soccer, and show what the resources of Joey Saputo are and the kind of player that he can bring to make Montreal into a contender. A lot of people when Montreal joined the league were very excited, obviously, to have it as a destination to travel to and so on and so forth. Some people knew about the Impact's history in the lower leagues, and it not just being a recent phenomenon, but going back 20 years. But I think that where Di Vaio's effect was more important was in Montreal itself, where he showed the city and the fan base and the soccer fans that this really was, prime time. This was the top level of soccer in the United States and Canada, and it was different from the old days when, yes, they were playing at Stade Saputo, and yes, they were getting healthy crowds, but the level of soccer, the level of spotlight, the level of conversation, the level of opposition was a lot higher. And you can make an international profile for yourself as a team in MLS in ways that you cannot in the lower leagues. And I think that he expanded the fan base, certainly because he brought people to Stade Saputo who maybe didn't go before. And I know that at times, sometimes they went to see Di Vaio instead of the team, and that frustrated Kevin. I know both of us, you and me, quite a bit at times. But I think that his legacy will have been showing Montreal what it can have as a professional soccer team, what MLS is, and raising that level, as I said.
On the pitch, Di Vaio brought a different style of play for an attacker that we really didn't see the Italian flair before in Major League Soccer. Do you think it's a type of play that's actually going to be fitting and might be copied over the next couple of years?
To me, though, I don't quite see it that way. I see it as Marco Di Vaio is a great striker.
Okay.
And there have been plenty of great strikers of all kinds and ages in Major League Soccer history. He's a wonderful, pure goal scorer, and he has a skill and a talent level that is a lot higher than a lot of the Americans and Canadians that have been produced. And he came in the manner of, maybe not at the level of Thierry Henry, but certainly Robbie Keane for some folks. He came in having a real pedigree. And in addition to having that real pedigree, he is one of a designated player who understood what it means to be a designated player in Montreal, in Major League. Start that sentence. And he understands what it means to be a designated player in Major League Soccer, not just on the field when everybody has that spotlight on you and you're expected to be the guy that scores the many goals and the big goals, but also off the field being an ambassador for the club, being open to charitable opportunities, signing lots of autographs, not just coming, taking the paycheck, playing 90 minutes every week or two, and then going home.
Absolutely. Last question before I let you go, Jonathan. What would you consider Marco Di Vaio's legacy, either with the Impact or with the league itself?
I think with the league itself, it opened a door and a pathway of communication for players in Italy who might want to come play in Major League Soccer. And Alessandro Nesta certainly also helped in that regard. But now MLS has a lot more recognition in Italy than it used to, and is seen as a viable destination for players in ways that it has not been before. And as I said in Montreal, I think it showed the soccer community in Montreal what their team can be, the level it can play at, being in the MLS playoffs, being on TSN and RDS and TVA every week, not just being on, Radio Canada web streams online and on TV a few times a year, being in the CONCACAF Champions League, playing against teams that have David Beckham and Thierry Henry and Robbie Keane, and from what I understand, showing some of the young guys on that Impact team and in that academy, that they can make it as a pro, and here's how to do it.
Absolutely. Jonathan Tannenwald, thank you very much for joining us on this special retirement special of Di Vaio.
Anytime, and I hope Dwayne is doing okay these days. I know it's been a bit of a rough ride for him.
Sono momenti che hai vissuto già, li riconosci, riconosco te, come le finestre della mia città, come il silenzio di chi può fidarsi e può lasciarsi andare. Grazie per ogni singolo momento nostro, per ogni gesto, il più nascosto, ogni promessa, ogni parola scritta, dentro una stanza che racchiude ogni certezza. E grazie per ogni singolo momento nostro, per ogni gesto, il più nascosto, ogni promessa, ogni parola scritta, dentro una stanza che racchiude ogni certezza.
All right, welcome back to this retirement special for Marco Di Vaio. Special guest from the United States for Fox Soccer Inside MLS, Cal McCarthy. How you doing today?
I'm doing really well, thanks. It's sad to see Marco go, though, isn't it?
It is, but I don't know if you'll agree with me. The last 3 years have been really interesting following him around. First of all, what's the opinion that comes out when you're thinking about a player like Marco Di Vaio who played in MLS?
I've been continuous with how Marco Di Vaio has approached his duties with the Impact and has performed when he's taken the field. He has added a lot to MLS, and I'm not sure he's received the recognition he's deserved for what he's been able to contribute since he came to North America.
This is probably the reason behind this very special show. I want to have many different opinions of different people. I have people from all around North America to give me opinions on how they saw Marco Di Vaio. He brought a different type of flair of attacking prowess to the pitch. Do you think it's something we'll see reproduce in the upcoming years? A different type of Italian striker, you could say.
I think you'll see other strikers have a similar level of success. I'm not sure you'll see someone do it quite like Di Vaio did. The one thing I'm always going to remember about watching Marco Di Vaio play in MLS is seeing him figure out how to get behind the line. No one was better at timing his runs and figuring out a way to really expose defenses. And that was, to me, his biggest strength. And to watch him do it, it was like watching a master at work.
Would you consider the years that he has in Major League Soccer? We know he didn't stay here for long. He only was here for 2.5 seasons. But those 2.5 seasons, would you consider those as one of the best in the history for a DP?
I think he's done very well. I don't know if I'd put him quite up in those ranks because he had some trouble staying healthy, and that obviously counts against him. But certainly when he was on the field and he was able to contribute regularly, he was a guy who made a significant impact. I think you saw that last year.
Mm-hmm. As an American-based journalist, what was the arrival of Marco Di Vaio portrayed as in the States?
It was not probably as big of a deal in the United States as it was up in Quebec. Marco Di Vaio is a good player with a good pedigree, but he doesn't capture the attention like some of the other signings that have been made. But I think he's also received some attention as his career has progressed here because of what he's been able to do on the field.
And we're seeing this season the departure of Di Vaio and Thierry Henry as well. Do you think it's almost the DP 2.0 is going to start next season, seeing a different type of designated player joining MLS next year?
It's certainly a transition. When you look at Di Vaio stepping away, you look at Landon Donovan stepping away, you look at Thierry Henry perhaps leaving New York, though nothing's confirmed yet, and that's obviously a loss for the league. Those guys have performed no high standard, and it's going to be on new signings to really shoulder that load a little bit. If you look at the likes of Kaká coming into the league next year, David Villa and Frank Lampard, it's a new group and a new challenge for MLS to rely on those guys to carry league forward.
And I can't have you without asking you one question about the Revolution, at least, especially heading into the playoff. Well, what are your predictions for the playoff to start with in the next couple of weeks?
Well, it's certainly going to be interesting. In the Eastern Conference, I think it's very difficult to predict what will happen. You've got 5 teams that are fairly evenly situated, and the Revs are certainly in the best form out of any of them. They've been 8-1-1 in their past 10 matches heading into the season finale against Toronto, and they're in good stead. But it's the MLS playoffs, and you just have to wait and see because upheaval is just around the corner.
Yeah, and I still have that little dirty chip by Lee and Wen for the last couple of weeks. It still stings a little, so I can understand that totally.
Yeah, he's done that to a few people this year, certainly.
Cal Mccarthy, thank you very much for joining us on this special edition of Off the Woodworks today.
Great, thanks for having me.
Sono centimetri che ci dividono e sai che solo questo, la voglia di sentirti accanto più di tutto il resto, ti vedo e ci rivedo un'altra volta ancora. Cos'è cambiato? Dove siamo adesso? Ora, le nostre chiacchiere, ridammi l'accendino. Ci siamo tutti oggi, restami vicino. Le lunghe attese, casa tua, ormai sei grande, la speranza di sentirsi più importante. E grazie per ogni singolo momento nostro, per ogni gesto, il più nascosto, ogni promessa, ogni parola scritta, dentro una stanza che racchiude ogni certezza. E grazie per ogni singolo momento nostro, per ogni gesto, il più nascosto, ogni promessa, ogni parola scritta, dentro una stanza che racchiude ogni certezza.
Joining me now on Off the Woodworks Special Edition, we have Noel Butler from TSN and TSN 690. How you doing, Noel?
I'm doing very well, mate.
Tomorrow, Saturday, Marco Di Vaio is going to play his last match for the Montreal Impact. When I say the name Marco Di Vaio, what comes to mind, Noel?
Grace under pressure.
Wow, nice. Did you expect the type of season that he had when he first signed with the Impact 3 years ago?
Oh, you mean in 2012 when he appeared in 17 games for the club and only returned a meagre output of 5 goals? Or, of course, 2013, we all know what happened then, and which in a very scarce MLS milestone, Marco Di Vaio, not often has it happened through the existence of the league going back to 1996 that a striker has scored 20 goals through the course of a regular season. A phenomenal season, and rightfully in the frame and candidates for the most valuable player last season. And of course we have to also factor in 2013 Marco Di Vaio. Dare we call them problems of the heart? Of course, matters of the family back home in Italy very much causing a strain, but still he was able to persevere. There was, of course, an extended period of doubt that he would even be back for this season. We all know, of course, he is back this season, and yes, it's not been a successful MLS campaign to build on what was a playoff appearance last season. However, the club has retained the Canadian Championship, and the goals of Marco Di Vaio through the group stage of the CONCACAF Champions League, securing that valuable place in the knockout stages of the competition. And we all know what happened back in 2009, when, of course, in front of over 55,000 people, the Impact beat Santos Laguna, and it was another striker legend, the man himself, Mr. Sabrango Eduardo, scoring the brace on that night.
If we talk about a designated player, his job is not on the pitch, but off the pitch as well. Would you consider Marco Di Vaio a success on that as well?
Absolutely, in all aspects, and whether you're talking in terms of off the pitch, away from the senior team, in the football business perspective, absolutely, Marco Di Vaio has elevated the profile of this club. I would imagine he has absolutely contributed in a significant way. The merchandise sales, I don't think it would be an exact state that Marco Di Vaio jersey, the most popular jersey amongst the players at the club. And then, of course, as vital, because it's all about the future, he has been the typical mentor for the homegrown talent that's coming out of the Impact Academy. That having spoken just last night with Marco, how did he spend this week? Of course, suspended for the final group stage game down in New York in the CONCACAF Champions League, and so he took it upon himself to train with the academy teams, the under-21 and the under-23 sides, and you can imagine with all that's going on leading up to tomorrow, it would have been a very emotional week for Mr. Di Vaio, and as we said, the young players, the talent that is coming through the ranks, and as I said, absolutely Marco Di Vaio would have been a wonderful mentor for the players, not just for the strikers and forwards, but for defenders and everybody else connected with the club.
Would you consider his legacy as he introduced a new type of way to move off the defender as a striker that we haven't really seen in Major League Soccer before? So do you think that is almost his biggest legacy that he left him in Major League Soccer?
Well, it's one of many, isn't it, really? I mean, Marco Di Vaio, he is the original designated player. He will always retain that title. He is currently, of course, the leading goal scorer for the club in Major League Soccer. You would imagine that over the course of time, that record will be breached. But if you just look at the young lad, Jack Mack himself, McInerney, is almost a very similar player to Marco Di Vaio, both in the way that they play and their profile, their diminutive characters. And Marco Di Vaio absolutely makes the most of his ability to almost disappear, if you like, from view for the opponent, the defence, and all of a sudden he pops up and he is almost perfected down to an art and a science, the movement off the shoulder of the last defender, very similar in style to players like, of course, Ruud van Nistelrooy. You watched Van Nistelrooy play, Di Vaio is an absolute expert. Yes, he was caught offside more times than he'd care to remember, but my gosh, that burst of speed, and considering he's 38 years of age, he's a wonder to behold, and absolutely Marco Di Vaio, in terms of his preparation, his training, last off at the pitch, and always early back into Montreal ahead of training camp that always takes place, of course, at the end of January, and he's not going to be replaceable. However, the club, of course, are well on the way in terms of being able to secure a player that will have that stature of a Marco Di Vaio.
Last question before I let you go, Noel. What is your lasting memory of Marco Di Vaio? What is the one moment that you will remember of Di Vaio with the Impact?
I'll tell you what it is. It's not a goal. It's not a pass. It's not his production or his contribution to a win. It is simply the fact that each and every time you see Marco Di Vaio, and let's take it as game day, he simply always finds the time for the supporters. Not one to rush off a pitch, no matter what the mood the game has presented. Marco Di Vaio is simply always available, and it's not often people are aware and able to do that. And that, to me, is a defining legacy for Marco Di Vaio. And, of course, that is exactly the type of player, person and character that the Impact desperately needed in terms of being able to, as we said earlier in the conversation, increase the profile, the stature of the club as it looks forward to what you hope will be a much more successful fourth season in Major League Soccer in 2015.
Noel Butler from TSN, thank you very much for joining us today on this special show.
Cheers, mate. All the best to everyone, and see you at Stade Saputo Saturday afternoon.
I would like to thank all the guests who appear on this anthology almost of Marco Di Vaio, a show dedicated entirely to him, and it's fitting. Hope he scores today on his last game. It would be more than fitting for him to finish his Montreal Impact stint that way. Thanks to Raphael Larocque-Cyr, Nick Sabetti, Jonathan Tannenwald, Cal McCarthy, and Noel Butler for being part of this great anthology of Marco Di Vaio. Hope you liked it. It's been a work of the last couple of weeks, really trying to find hard to find type of sound to commemorate his time with the Montreal Impact. And speaking about hard to find, and maybe you never heard, Montreal Impact had a couple representatives last year, 2013, in the All-Star game, Patrice Bernier and Marco Di Vaio. And Marco Di Vaio actually had the chance to play Macklemore, of all people. If you remember the one-hit wonder Can't Hold Us from last summer, who actually played during the All-Star game. Well, he played Marco Di Vaio on FIFA, and let's just hear how it went down. Let's just say it was funny when he scored one himself, and it was it's just great to see and great to hear. So let's go to Jimmy Conrad and Macklemore versus Di Vaio. Talk to you soon. Have a great soccer.
Hey. Let's see you. Come on in, let's go. Yeah! Let's go! All right, okay.
Slow build up here from Marco Di Vaio, some good possession. Very similar to how Montreal Impact plays in real life. If he scores with himself, it'd be pretty surreal. Good defense by Macklemore. Di Vaio with a great pass. Here he goes, one-on-one. Oh! 1-0. Felipe Martin. Macklemore's claiming for offside. Might have to see the replay. I don't know. Before I make any judgment here. It looked onside to me. Good classy touch. What a pass by Di Vaio instead of Martin. Here we go, let's see if... It's too bad they don't have a Haggerty 206 out there. That'd be sick. That's my favorite part of the game. Lots of slide tackles. Here we go, 3v2 break. All right. That was pretty close to my passing ability back in the day. Six-dig the long ball. So, it's not a bad tactic. Di Vaio looking for Di Vaio. Finds himself, top of the box. One defender. He's there. Oh! What a save. Good patience on top of the box. Di Vaio, again with himself. Rounds the corner. Oh, what a tackle. Good play. Lots of injury time here in the first half. Di Vaio, top of the box. Oh! Nothing more he wants to do than score with himself. Marco Di Vaio. 2-0. That must be nice to score with yourself. Get back after it. Here we go. Wow. See call, referee. Nice, seen it. Bernier with him. Not a very good free kick. That's what we come to expect from him. Di Vaio with Di Vaio again. Good defense. Good save by Spurning. He's in. Go on, go on. Oh! A little too excited. 2-0. Montreal over Seattle. 64th minute. Oh, wow. Di Vaio rounds the goalkeeper. Hey! Thank you very much. Second goal of the game. Marco Di Vaio scores with himself. He's got some experience with this. There we go. Got some space. Here he comes. 4v4. Good pass. Whoa! McLemore says he didn't get trophies when he played, only red cards. Another good save by Bernie. Probably the coolest last name in Major League Soccer. Go on. Go on, go on. Hey! Macklemore buries it. Ozzy Alonso. Classy finish. A couple minutes remaining. Then Di Vaio gets a fourth. Can Macklemore get back in this game? That's what I want to know. That late run's going to happen now. Di Vaio seems to be locking it down. 2 minutes left, injury time. And that is the game, everyone. Marco Di Vaio is the winner, 3-1 over Macklemore. Fantastic performance, guys. Marco, tell us about your performance. How was the game? Easy. Wow, hey. Those are fighting words.
I'm joking. Today, I lacked a little bit of that heart, but I did have a breakaway. I scored a goal, and for a rookie, I played pretty mediocre. I'll take that.
How is it to score with yourself in a video game?
Something strange.
Yeah?
Because these players are more iron than me.
You feel like it looks like you in the game? Does it look like you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Movement,
Yeah.
Can we go back